I would like to first thank the Council of the Americas for this kind invitation. It's a great honor to share this podium with such a distinguished company. And I also want to congratulate the Council. This conference could not be timelier. We are certainly living in a defining moment in our history and the history of our continent. I would say it's no exaggeration that the well-being of future generations depends on what we do and what decisions we take in the coming years. And it is a matter of great urgency that we understand what is at stake. So I would like to use this opportunity today to present to you, from my perspective as Minister of Defense, a strategic vision of what is needed to guarantee our common future. I am well aware that Latin America has rarely been the most pressing issue for those who worry about international affairs here in the United States. Former President Nixon is reputed to have said back in 1971, Latin America doesn't matter. People don't give a damn about Latin America. Over 35 years later, an article in last month's edition of the Investor's Business Daily, titled A New World Order, makes the case that given the discovery of vast amount of oil in South America, it is probable that the U.S. strategic interest will shift from the Middle East to South America by 2020. These two contrasting outlooks, set more than a generation apart, give us a hint of the complex dynamics and the ambivalent attitudes that have characterized the relationship between the Americas, North, Central, and South for many decades. I come here today with a hopeful message because I truly believe that if we play our cards right, we have great possibilities for our hemisphere. But I also come with a word of warning. A warning about a specter that is casting its shadow on the Americas and that threatens the stability of our democracies. On January 20 of next year, the next President of the United States will be sworn into office. Shortly thereafter, he or she will look south and find a Latin America that, if not completely unfamiliar, then at the very least, one that poses a new and complex foreign policy challenge, because Latin America is at a crossroads today. Although the last 5 years have represented the best economic and social advances of the past half-century, the truth is that the region is also caught in a clear struggle between two opposing political visions. This confrontation is a fundamental clash between two models of governance, two models of development, two conceptions of what democracy really means, two different approaches on how to conquer our future. Michael Reed, the Americas editor for The Economist, recognizes this confrontation in his recent book, and in an unusually expressive language for an Englishman, he calls it the battle for Latin American soul, and adds that, and I quote, "It is hard to overstate what is at stake in this ideological rivalry." Ladies and gentlemen, there is a new specter haunting Latin America. It claims to be similar to a specter that Marx unleashed in Europe during the 19th century. but it lacks the intellectual muscle and the moral stamina that Mark's specter had. It is, in fact, instead, quite a degenerated version that could be defined as a neopopulist, pseudo-socialist, and autocratic specter. This is a specter that sees democracy in a very different way than the one that was conceived by your founding fathers in the 18th century and our founding fathers in the 19th century. It makes a mockery of the systems of checks and balances and of the protection of individual rights that Madison fought for in the Federalist Paper and that we in Colombia have also defended since our birth as a nation. The specter exploits democratic processes to do away with democracy itself, violating, by the way, the OAS democratic charter. It is a specter that does not respect private property, a specter that promotes aggressive state intervention as does not flinch when it comes to nationalizing private enterprises. A specter that through its economic policies, its protectionism, and its contempt for free markets is condemning people in the long run to poverty and misery. A specter that feeds on confrontation and imagined external threats. A specter that is not only friendly with pariah states across the globe, but that opens its doors to allow an increasing presence and influence of radical regimes in the region. A specter that defies the international legal system when it is politically convenient. The specter I'm talking about is essentially expansionist and will not hesitate to violate the principle of non-intervention and to use its vast resources and even narco dollars to achieve its objectives. It is a specter that, because it is profoundly anti-American, wants to destroy the inter-American system. How? By attempting to establish parallel structures such as an OAS without North America, or the Bank of the South, or regional defense associations, or the so-called ALBA. All distorted versions of traditional inter-American institutions, like mirrors in a funhouse. A specter that disdains the freedom of expression and seeks to undermine the very essence of freedom of the press and journalistic integrity. It cynically calls members of the Inter-American Press Association as media terrorists, while launching its own Soviet-style propaganda outlets financed and controlled by the state. So, we must ask, what does this specter want? The answer is nothing less than to destroy the future of liberal democracy as a model of good government in Latin America. It is precisely this liberal democratic system that is on the other side of this struggle, a system that after so many years, or I would say so many decades, of military dictatorships finally became the rule rather than the exception in Latin America.